300-pound exterminator, sitting in his truck at 2 a.m., staring at his reflection in the mirror and seeing nothing but failure. Cockroaches crawling around his feet, the smell of pesticide burning his nostrils, and the crushing weight of mediocrity suffocating his soul. This man had tried everything: multiple attempts at military training, failed businesses, broken relationships, and a body that had given up on him long before his mind did. But here's where the story gets interesting, and why you need to stay until the very end of this video. That same man would go on to become the only person in history to complete Navy SEAL training, Army Ranger School, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training. He'd run over 60 ultramarathons, including the Badwater 135, a 135-mile race through Death Valley in 130-degree heat. He'd set the world record for pull-ups in 24 hours, doing 4,030 pull-ups. He'd become a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and the embodiment of human potential. But here's the twist that'll blow your mind. David Goggins will tell you that none of that matters. Because according to him, the moment you think you're finished, the moment you believe you've reached your peak, the moment you start celebrating your achievements, that's exactly when you're about to lose everything. This isn't just another success story. This is the raw, unfiltered blueprint of a man who discovered that your greatest achievements aren't your finish line. They're your starting blocks. And if you think you know what mental toughness looks like, buckle up, because David Goggins is about to redefine everything you thought you knew about human potential. Stay with me for the next 30 minutes, and I promise you'll walk away with a completely different understanding of what it means to never be finished. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to learn could literally change the trajectory of your entire life. The foundation. Who is David Goggins? Before we dive into the life-changing lessons from Never Finished, you need to understand the man behind the message. David Goggins isn't your typical motivational speaker who grew up with advantages and turned them into success. He's the complete opposite. Born into poverty in Buffalo, New York, Goggins experienced a childhood that would break most people before they even started. His father was abusive, controlling every aspect of young David's life. He worked at his father's roller rink from a young age, essentially becoming child labor in a toxic family business. The psychological and physical abuse was so severe that his mother eventually had to flee with David and his brother in the middle of the night. But the trauma didn't end there. Moving to a small town in Indiana, Goggins faced intense racism as one of the few black students in his school. He was called every racial slur imaginable, beaten up regularly, and made to feel like he didn't belong anywhere. This environment created what Goggins calls his victim mentality, a psychological prison that kept him trapped in mediocrity for decades. By the time he reached his 20s, Goggins had become everything he hated. He was overweight, lazy, and full of excuses. He worked as an exterminator, spraying for cockroaches, and had developed what he calls the Big Three, his three biggest enemies: his lying, cheating, and victim mentality. He was trapped in a cycle of self-defeat, making excuses for why he couldn't achieve anything meaningful. The turning point came when he was 24 years old, weighing nearly 300 pounds, and saw a documentary about Navy SEAL training. Something clicked inside him, not inspiration, but pure rage at what he had become. He realized he had been living a lie, making excuses, and allowing his circumstances to define his destiny. But here's what makes Goggins different from every other transformation story you've heard. He didn't just want to change his body or his career. He wanted to completely rebuild his mind, his character, and his understanding of what human beings are truly capable of achieving. The core philosophy: never finished mindset. The central theme of Never Finished isn't about achieving success. It's about what happens after you achieve success. Goggins introduces a concept so powerful and counterintuitive that it challenges everything we've been taught about goal setting and achievement. Most people follow what Goggins calls the arrival mentality. They set a goal, work toward it, achieve it, and then celebrate by relaxing into their success. They think they've made it and can now coast on their achievements. This is exactly where most people fail, according to Goggins. The never-finished mindset operates on a completely different principle. Your greatest achievements should be your greatest motivators for what comes next. When you accomplish something significant, instead of celebrating and relaxing, You should be asking yourself, what did this achievement teach me about my capabilities? How can I use this new knowledge to tackle something even more challenging? Think about it like this. Imagine you're climbing a mountain, and you finally reach what you thought was the summit. Most people would plant their flag, take photos, and start planning their descent. But when the clouds clear, you realize there's an even higher peak beyond what you could see. The never-finished mindset says, "Good, I'm warmed up. Now let's see what I'm really capable of." This philosophy extends far beyond physical achievements. It applies to every area of life: relationships, career, personal growth, and character development. The moment you think you've mastered something, you've actually opened the door to discover how much more you don't know. Goggins learned this lesson the hard way. After completing Navy SEAL training, arguably one of the most challenging military programs in the world, he thought he was done proving himself. He'd transformed from a 300-pound nobody into one of the world's elite warriors. But instead of satisfaction, he felt empty. That's when he realized that the achievement itself wasn't the point. It was what the achievement revealed about his untapped potential. Lesson 1. The haunting philosophy. One of the most powerful concepts in Never Finished is what Goggins calls the haunting philosophy. This isn't about being haunted by your failures. It's about being haunted by your unrealized potential. Goggins asks a question that should terrify every person who's settling for mediocrity. What if the person you have the potential to become is literally haunting the person you are right now? Imagine there's a version of you, call it your best self, that exists in a parallel universe. This version of you made different choices, pushed through different barriers, and refused to accept the limitations you've accepted. This version of you is everything you could become if you stopped making excuses and started making moves. Now imagine that this best self version of you can see exactly how you're living right now. They can see every time you hit the snooze button instead of getting up to work out. They can see every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you make an excuse instead of making progress. They can see all the potential you're wasting, all the opportunities you're missing, all the greatness you're choosing to ignore. How would that make them feel? How would that make you feel if you were watching your current self waste the gifts and opportunities that your best self had to fight for? This is the haunting philosophy in action. It's not about guilt or shame. It's about accountability to your potential. It's about recognizing that the comfortable life you're living might be a betrayal of the extraordinary life you're capable of creating. Goggins applies this philosophy ruthlessly to his own life. Even after becoming a Navy SEAL, he was haunted by the question, what else are you capable of? Even after setting world records, he's haunted by, what records are still waiting to be broken? Even after writing best-selling books, he's haunted by, what messages are still waiting to be shared? Real-life example. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who could have stopped after becoming a successful talk show host. But she was haunted by the potential to create her own network, to impact education, to change lives on a global scale. Each achievement revealed new possibilities, new ways to serve, new mountains to climb. She never finished, she kept evolving. The haunting philosophy forces you to confront an uncomfortable truth. The life you're living right now might be comfortable, but is it worthy of your potential? Are you honoring the gifts you've been given, or are you burying them under excuses and comfort? Lesson 2. The evolution of suffering. Most people try to avoid suffering at all costs. They choose comfort, convenience, and the path of least resistance. Goggins argues that this approach doesn't just limit your achievements, it actually increases your suffering in the long term. He introduces the concept of evolving your suffering, the idea that you can choose your type of suffering, and some types of suffering actually make you stronger while others make you weaker. There are two types of suffering: suffering of discipline versus suffering of regret. The suffering of discipline weighs ounces, but the suffering of regret weighs tons. When you choose the discipline of getting up early, eating right, training hard, and pushing through discomfort, you experience temporary suffering that builds strength, character, and capability. When you choose comfort and avoid discipline, you eventually experience the suffering of regret, looking back at wasted time, missed opportunities, and unrealized potential. This type of suffering doesn't make you stronger. It makes you bitter, resentful, and weak. But Goggins takes this concept even further. He argues that once you build a tolerance for the suffering of discipline, you can actually start to evolve that suffering into something more powerful: the suffering of growth. The suffering of growth is different from basic discipline. It's the suffering that comes from constantly pushing beyond your comfort zone, from refusing to settle for your current level of achievement, from always asking, "What's next?" instead of, "Is this enough?" Real-life example. Consider Kobe Bryant's legendary Mamba mentality. Kobe didn't just suffer through basketball practice. He evolved that suffering into an obsession with perfection. He would show up to practice at 4 a.m. not because he had to, but because he was addicted to the process of getting better. He turned suffering into fuel for greatness. When you're 50 years old and you see someone half your age outworking you, most people feel defeated. Goggins sees this as an opportunity to evolve his suffering. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, he asks, "What can this young person teach me about my own limitations? How can I use their energy to push myself to new levels?" The evolution of suffering means that discomfort becomes your ally, not your enemy. Pain becomes information, not a signal to quit. Challenges become opportunities to discover new capabilities, not reasons to make excuses. This philosophy completely changes how you approach difficult situations in life. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid this suffering?" you start asking, "How can I use this suffering to become stronger?" Instead of looking for the easy path, you start looking for the path that will teach you the most about yourself. Lesson 4. The Accountability Mirror 2.0. The accountability mirror was one of the most powerful concepts from Goggins' first book, but in Never Finished, he reveals how this practice evolves as you grow. The basic accountability mirror involves looking at yourself in the mirror and having brutally honest conversations about your effort, your excuses, and your commitment. But Accountability Mirror 2.0 is designed for people who have already achieved some level of success and need to guard against complacency. This advanced version focuses on 3 specific questions. Question 1. What have I become comfortable with that I shouldn't be? Success creates comfort, and comfort creates blindness to your own decline. You might be in great shape compared to average people, but have you become comfortable with a level of fitness that's below your potential? You might be successful in your career, but have you become comfortable with a level of performance that's below your capabilities? Question 2. What am I avoiding that I know I need to face? As you achieve more success, you gain more to lose, which makes you more risk-averse. What challenges are you avoiding because you don't want to risk your current position? What difficult conversations are you postponing? What skills are you avoiding developing because failure might bruise your ego? Question 3. If I died today, what potential would die with me? This is the ultimate accountability question. Not what have I achieved, but what have I left on the table? What gifts are you not sharing with the world? What impact are you not making? What version of yourself are you not becoming? Real-life example. After achieving massive success with Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk could have become comfortable with being known as an innovative entrepreneur. Instead, he regularly applies this type of accountability thinking. He asks himself what he's becoming comfortable with, maybe the pace of innovation, what he's avoiding, maybe certain technical challenges, and what potential might die with him, maybe the colonization of Mars or the development of neural interfaces. The Accountability Mirror 2.0 is particularly powerful because it prevents what Goggins calls success syndrome, the tendency to coast on past achievements instead of using them as launching pads for future growth. This practice requires you to be your own harshest critic, but in a constructive way. You're not beating yourself up for not being perfect, you're holding yourself accountable to your potential. There's a crucial difference between self-criticism that destroys and self-accountability that builds. Lesson 5. The 40% Rule Evolution. The 40% rule from Goggins' first book states that when your mind is telling you you're done, you're really only 40% done. You have 60% more to give. But in Never Finished, Goggins reveals how this rule evolves as you develop more mental toughness. The evolved version isn't just about having more in the tank when you think you're empty. It's about expanding your tank size so that your 40% becomes more powerful than most people's 100%. Here's how the evolution works. Level 1. Discovery. You learn that you have more capability than you thought. When you feel like quitting, you push through and discover you can do more. This is the basic 40% rule. Level 2. Expansion. You systematically put yourself in situations that force you to access that extra 60% regularly. Through repeated exposure to your limits, you expand what you consider to be your baseline capability. Level 3. Recalibration. Your new normal becomes what used to be your maximum effort. What once required you to dig deep now becomes your standard operating procedure. Your 40% is now equivalent to what your 100% used to be. Level 4. Perpetual growth. You develop the ability to find new 60% reserves even after you've expanded your capacity. No matter how strong you become, you can always find more. Real-life example. Consider Michael Jordan's evolution as a player. Early in his career, he had to reach deep to perform clutch shots under pressure. Through repeated exposure to high-pressure situations, clutch performance became his normal state. What used to require maximum effort became his baseline expectation. Then he found new levels of performance in the playoffs, then new levels in the finals, then new levels in elimination games. The key insight is that the 40% rule isn't a fixed percentage, it's a dynamic principle that grows with you. As you expand your capabilities, you constantly discover new reserves of potential that you didn't know existed. This evolution requires you to continuously seek out situations that challenge your current capacity. You can't just coast on your previous breakthroughs. You need to actively seek out new ways to test your limits and expand your definition of what's possible. Lesson 6. The weaponization of insecurity. This might be the most controversial and misunderstood concept in Never Finished. Goggins doesn't advocate for maintaining unhealthy insecurity or negative self-talk. Instead, he teaches how to transform insecurity into fuel for growth while building genuine confidence. Most people try to eliminate their insecurities through positive affirmations or by avoiding situations that trigger their self-doubt. Goggins takes the opposite approach. He weaponizes his insecurities by using them as motivation to improve. Here's the process. Step 1. Acknowledge the insecurity. Instead of pretending you're not insecure about something, you honestly acknowledge it. I'm insecure about my intelligence because I struggled in school. I'm insecure about my physical appearance because I was overweight for years. Step 2. Identify the skill gap. You examine what specific skills or capabilities would address the root cause of your insecurity. If you're insecure about your intelligence, what would you need to learn or develop to feel more confident in intellectual situations? Step 3. Create a development plan. You create a systematic plan to develop those skills or capabilities. This isn't about fake confidence. It's about building real competence in areas where you feel inadequate. Step 4. Use the insecurity as fuel. Every time you feel that insecurity, instead of being defeated by it, you use it as motivation to work on your development plan. The discomfort becomes a reminder to take action, not a reason to avoid challenges. Real-life example. Richard Branson was insecure about his dyslexia and struggled with traditional academic learning. Instead of avoiding business situations that required complex analysis, he weaponized this insecurity by building an exceptional team of analytical minds around him and developing his ability to ask the right questions even when he couldn't do the detailed analysis himself. His insecurity about numbers made him better at understanding people and building relationships. Goggins applies this to his own background. He was insecure about his lack of formal education and his troubled past. Instead of hiding from these insecurities, he weaponized them by becoming obsessively committed to self-education and personal development. His insecurity about his intellectual capabilities drove him to read more, study more, and think more deeply than people who took their intelligence for granted. The key is that weaponizing insecurity isn't about staying insecure forever. It's about using insecurity as motivation to build genuine competence and confidence. Eventually, you develop real skills that address the root cause of your insecurity, but you maintain the work ethic and drive that the insecurity originally provided. Lesson 7. The Calloused Mind Evolution. In his first book, Goggins introduced the concept of building a calloused mind, developing mental toughness through repeated exposure to difficult situations. In Never Finished, He reveals how this concept evolves into something much more sophisticated. The basic callous mind is about building tolerance for discomfort. The evolved version is about building preference for challenge. Instead of just tolerating difficult situations, you start actively seeking them out because you recognize them as opportunities for growth. Here's how the evolution unfolds. Stage 1: Tolerance building. You expose yourself to uncomfortable situations repeatedly until they no longer feel overwhelming. Cold showers, difficult workouts, challenging conversations, you build tolerance. Stage 2: Comfort with discomfort. You reach a point where uncomfortable situations feel familiar and manageable. You're no longer afraid of difficulty because you've proven to yourself that you can handle it. Stage 3: Seeking challenge. You start actively looking for situations that will challenge you because you recognize that comfort equals stagnation. You begin to view challenge as necessary for continued growth. Stage 4: Addicted to growth. You become genuinely excited by difficult situations because you know they represent opportunities to discover new capabilities. Challenge becomes fuel rather than something to endure. Real-life example. Navy SEALs don't just tolerate dangerous missions. They become addicted to the growth that comes from operating in high-stakes environments. The challenge itself becomes rewarding because it forces them to operate at levels they couldn't access in comfortable situations. Goggins demonstrates this evolution in his own life. Early in his transformation, he had to force himself to exercise and eat right. As his calloused mind developed, he became comfortable with the discomfort of training. Eventually, he started seeking out increasingly difficult challenges, ultramarathons, world record attempts, extreme physical tests, because he recognized that growth only happens at the edge of your capabilities. The evolved calloused mind doesn't just endure difficulty. It harvests difficulty for the mental strength, emotional resilience, and character development that can only be forged in challenging situations. This evolution changes your entire relationship with problems and obstacles. Instead of seeing difficulties as things to overcome and get past, you start seeing them as raw materials for building the person you want to become. Lesson 8. The uncommon amongst the uncommon principle. One of the most profound concepts in Never Finished is the idea of becoming uncommon amongst the uncommon. This goes far beyond just being different from average people. It's about standing out even among high achievers. Most people compare themselves to the general population and feel satisfied when they're above average. High achievers compare themselves to other successful people and feel satisfied when they're competitive in that group. But Goggins challenges you to find what makes you uncommon even among the uncommon. Here's how this principle works. Level 1. Uncommon among the common. You develop habits, skills, and mindsets that separate you from average people. You work out regularly, read books, set goals, and push yourself beyond what most people are willing to do. Level 2. Competitive among the uncommon. You find yourself in environments with other high achievers and work to be competitive with them. You're in the mix with other successful people holding your own. Level 3. Uncommon among the uncommon. You identify what unique value, perspective, or capability you bring that even other high achievers don't have. This isn't about being better than everyone else. It's about finding your unique contribution to excellence. Real-life example. In the world of basketball, many players are uncommon among common people because they're professional athletes. Many are competitive among the uncommon because they're skilled NBA players. But Michael Jordan became uncommon among the uncommon because of his unique combination of talent, work ethic, competitiveness, and clutch performance. He didn't just want to be a good player or even a great player. He wanted to bring something to basketball that no one else could bring. Goggins applies this principle by asking, among all the people who have completed Navy SEAL training, ultramarathons, and extreme physical challenges, what unique perspective or capability do I bring? His answer involves his unique combination of transformation story, teaching ability, and willingness to be vulnerable about his struggles. The uncommon amongst the uncommon principle forces you to think beyond competition and comparison. It's not about beating other people. It's about discovering and developing your unique gift to the world of excellence. This requires deep self-awareness and honest assessment of your strengths, experiences, and perspectives. What have you learned through your unique journey that others haven't learned? What can you contribute to your field or area of interest that others can't? Lesson 9. The recalibration protocol. Success creates its own set of problems, and one of the biggest is the gradual lowering of your standards without realizing it. Goggins introduces the recalibration protocol, a systematic approach to maintaining and raising your standards even after achieving significant success. The problem with success is that it changes your reference point. What once felt challenging becomes routine. What once required maximum effort becomes your baseline. While this expansion of capability is good, it can also lead to complacency if you're not careful. The recalibration protocol involves 3 regular practices. Practice 1. Standards audit. Regularly examine your current standards in different areas of your life. How hard are you working compared to when you were trying to achieve your last major breakthrough? What behaviors have you allowed to slide because you've already made it? Practice 2. Capability assessment. Honestly assess your current capabilities compared to your peak performance. In what areas have you maintained your edge? In what areas have you declined? What new capabilities could you develop? Practice 3. Challenge injection. Systematically introduce new challenges that force you to operate at the edge of your current capabilities. These challenges should be in areas that matter to your continued growth and contribution. Real-life example. After winning multiple championships, Tom Brady could have coasted on his achievements. Instead, he regularly recalibrated his standards. He changed teams, adjusted his training methods, modified his diet, and continued to study the game at the same intensity he had as a young player trying to prove himself. He used success as fuel for more success rather than an excuse to relax. Goggins demonstrates this protocol in his own life by continuously seeking out new types of challenges. After mastering ultramarathons, he took on different physical challenges. After proving himself physically, he focused on developing his speaking and teaching abilities. Each achievement became a platform for the next level of growth. The key insight is that recalibration isn't just about maintaining your current level. It's about using your expanded capabilities as a foundation for reaching new levels that weren't possible before your previous achievements. Lesson 10. The legacy mindset. The final major lesson from Never Finished is the evolution from achieving for yourself to achieving for something larger than yourself. This isn't about selfless service. It's about recognizing that your highest potential can only be realized when you're working towards something that will outlast your lifetime. The legacy mindset operates on several levels. Personal legacy. What kind of person do you want to become by the end of your life? What character traits, capabilities, and wisdom do you want to develop? How do you want to be remembered by the people who knew you best? Contribution legacy. What impact do you want to have on your field, your community, or the world? What problems do you want to help solve? What positive changes do you want to be part of creating? Inspiration legacy. What example do you want to set for others? How do you want your story to inspire people who face similar challenges to the ones you faced? What do you want people to learn from watching how you live your life? Knowledge legacy. What have you learned through your unique experiences that could benefit others? What insights, strategies, or perspectives have you developed that you could pass on to future generations? Real-life example. Maya Angelou didn't just write poetry and autobiographies for personal expression. She recognized that her unique experiences and insights could help other people understand resilience, dignity, and the power of the human spirit. Her legacy mindset drove her to continue writing, speaking, and teaching even when she could have retired comfortably on her earlier achievements. Goggins has evolved into the legacy mindset by recognizing that his transformation story and mental toughness philosophy can help people who are stuck in the same patterns he once was trapped in. His continued pushing of physical and mental limits isn't just for personal achievement. It's to model what's possible and to continue learning lessons that he can share with others. The legacy mindset changes everything about how you approach goals and challenges. Instead of asking, "What can I achieve?" you start asking, "What can I become? And how can that serve something larger than myself?" Instead of seeking comfort after success, you seek ways to use your success as a platform for greater contribution. This mindset naturally leads to the never-finished philosophy because you recognize that as long as you're alive, there are ways to grow, contribute, and make a positive impact. Your potential doesn't have an expiration date. It has a responsibility to be fully realized in service of something meaningful. Practical applications. Putting it all together. Now that we've explored the deep philosophical concepts from Never Finished, let's talk about how to actually implement these ideas in your daily life. Goggins isn't just sharing theory. He's providing a practical blueprint for continuous growth and development. The Daily Implementation Framework. Morning recalibration, 10 minutes. Start each day by asking yourself 3 questions. 1. What did I do yesterday that I'm proud of, and how can I build on it today? 2. What did I avoid or compromise on yesterday, and how will I address it today? 3. What opportunity for growth will I actively seek out today? The Evolution Hour. Dedicate 1 hour each day to doing something that pushes you beyond your current comfort zone. This doesn't have to be physical. It could be learning a new skill, having a difficult conversation, or working on a challenging project. The key is that it should feel uncomfortable and force you to grow. Evening accountability, 10 minutes. End each day with an honest assessment of your effort and growth. Did you live up to your potential today? Where did you make excuses? What did you learn about yourself? How will you apply that learning tomorrow? The Weekly Challenge Protocol. Each week, identify one area of your life where you've become comfortable and introduce a specific challenge designed to push you to the next level. This could be a physical. Increase your workout intensity, try a new form of exercise, or set a fitness goal that scares you. A mental. Read a challenging book, learn a complex skill, or take on a project that requires new thinking. Emotional. Have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, practice vulnerability, or address a relationship issue. Professional. Take on additional responsibility, propose a challenging project, or develop a skill your career advancement requires. The Monthly Evolution Review. Once a month, conduct a comprehensive review of your growth across all areas of your life. 1. Capability assessment. What new capabilities have you developed? What skills have improved? Where have you expanded your capacity? 2. Standard calibration. Have your standards slipped in any area? Where might you be coasting on past achievements? 3. Challenge planning. What new challenges will you take on in the coming month? How will these challenges force you to grow? 4. Legacy alignment. How do your current activities align with the legacy you want to create? What adjustments do you need to make? Real-life integration examples. For professionals, instead of being satisfied with meeting your sales targets, use each achievement as proof that you can handle bigger challenges and seek opportunities for advancement. After mastering your current role, volunteer for projects that will force you to develop new skills. Use your success as credibility to mentor others, which will force you to articulate and refine your own approaches. For students, don't just aim for good grades. Use each academic challenge as an opportunity to develop better learning strategies and mental toughness. After achieving in one area, deliberately take on subjects or activities that challenge different aspects of your capabilities. Use your academic achievements as platforms to contribute to your school or community in meaningful ways. For parents, don't just focus on providing for your children. Use parenting as an opportunity to model continuous growth and resilience. After establishing good routines with your family, challenge yourself to develop new skills that will make you a better parent and role model. Use your family responsibilities as motivation to become the best version of yourself, knowing that your children are learning from your example. For athletes, after achieving a personal best, immediately start planning the training regimen that will take you to the next level. Use each competition not just as a chance to win, but as data collection for understanding your current capabilities and limitations. Develop skills outside your sport that will enhance your mental toughness and overall character. The deeper psychology. Why most people stay finished. Before we move toward the conclusion, it's crucial to understand why the never-finished mindset is so rare and why most people resist it, even when they intellectually understand its benefits. The comfort trap. Human beings are biologically wired for efficiency and energy conservation. Once we achieve a certain level of success or capability, Our brains naturally want to maintain that level with minimal effort. This made sense for survival in primitive environments, but it becomes a limitation when we want to continue growing and contributing. The comfort trap is seductive because it feels earned. After working hard to achieve something significant, it feels natural and justified to relax into that achievement. The problem is that relaxation quickly becomes stagnation, and stagnation eventually becomes decline. The identity prison. Success creates identity, and identity can become a prison. If you identify as someone who completed Navy SEAL training, or someone who built a successful business, or someone who overcame addiction, you might unconsciously limit yourself to maintaining that identity rather than evolving beyond it. Goggins calls this success identity disorder, when your past achievements become the ceiling for your future potential instead of the foundation. You start protecting your identity instead of expanding it. The energy management myth. Many people resist the never-finished mindset because they believe it requires unlimited energy and will lead to burnout. This is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how mental and physical energy actually work. The truth is that growth-oriented activities often generate more energy than they consume, especially over time. When you're consistently challenging yourself and developing new capabilities, you build both physical and mental stamina. The energy drain comes from stagnation, not from productive challenge. The comparison game. Social media and modern culture encourage us to compare our achievements to others rather than comparing our current selves to our potential selves. When you're performing better than most people around you, it's easy to lose sight of what you're capable of achieving. The never-finished mindset requires you to compete primarily with your own potential rather than with other people's achievements. This is both liberating and demanding. Liberating because you're not limited by what others have done. Demanding because you can't use others' limitations as excuses for your own. The transformation timeline. What to expect. If you decide to embrace the never-finished mindset, it's important to understand what the transformation process actually looks like. This isn't a quick fix or a 30-day challenge. It's a fundamental shift in how you approach life. Months 1 to 3, the awakening phase. During the first few months, you'll primarily be fighting against your own resistance to change. Your brain will try to convince you that your current level of achievement is enough, that you don't need to push yourself harder, that you've already proven yourself. What to expect? A strong internal resistance to new challenges. A temptation to make excuses and return to comfort. Excitement mixed with fear about what you might be capable of. Increased awareness of areas where you've been coasting. Key focus. Establishing daily practices that push you slightly beyond your comfort zone. Building the habit of honest self-assessment. Learning to distinguish between productive discomfort and harmful stress. Months 4 to 12, the building phase. As you establish new patterns and habits, you'll start to see evidence that you're capable of more than you previously thought. This evidence will fuel your motivation to continue pushing boundaries. What to expect? Noticeable improvements in physical, mental, or emotional capabilities. Increased confidence in your ability to handle challenges. A beginning to enjoy the process of growth itself. Others starting to notice changes in your approach and attitude. Key focus. A systematically increasing the difficulty of your challenges. Developing your personal version of the accountability mirror. Building your advanced cookie jar of evolution moments. Year 2 and beyond, the evolution phase. This is where the never-finished mindset becomes integrated into your identity. You're no longer forcing yourself to grow. You're naturally seeking opportunities for development because you've experienced the satisfaction that comes from realizing more of your potential. What to expect? A growth-oriented thinking becomes automatic. Comfort becomes uncomfortable. You start inspiring others through your example. Your definition of what's possible continues to expand. Key focus. Using your achievements as platforms for serving something larger than yourself. Mentoring others who are beginning their own transformation. Continuously recalibrating your standards and seeking new challenges. The ripple effect. Beyond personal transformation. One of the most powerful aspects of the never-finished mindset is how it affects not just you, but everyone around you. When you commit to continuous growth and refuse to settle for your current level of achievement, you give others permission to do the same. Impact on family. When your family sees you consistently challenging yourself and growing, it changes their understanding of what's normal and possible. Children, especially, learn more from what they observe than from what they're told. Your commitment to never being finished becomes a living lesson in human potential. Real-life example. Consider how Michael Jordan's work ethic influenced his teammates. They didn't just benefit from playing with a great player. They were elevated by being around someone who demonstrated what maximum effort and continuous improvement looked like on a daily basis. Impact on professional environment. Your refusal to coast on past achievements and your willingness to take on new challenges will influence your colleagues and create a culture of excellence around you. This doesn't mean being competitive with others. It means modeling what commitment to growth looks like. Impact on community. As you develop new capabilities and contribute at higher levels, you create opportunities and solutions that benefit your broader community. Your personal growth becomes a resource that others can benefit from. The teaching imperative. One of the natural outcomes of the never-finished mindset is the recognition that teaching others becomes both a responsibility and an opportunity for your own continued growth. As you develop insights and capabilities, sharing them with others forces you to deepen your understanding and discover new applications. Goggins demonstrates this through his speaking, writing, and social media presence. His teaching isn't separate from his personal growth. It's an integral part of it. Every time he helps someone else understand these principles, he deepens his own understanding and discovers new ways to apply them. The final challenge, your never-finished declaration. As we reach the end of this summary, it's time for the most important part, your personal commitment to the never-finished mindset. This isn't about setting goals or making promises. It's about declaring your intention to live in alignment with your potential rather than your comfort. Here's what Goggins would challenge you to do right now. The 72-hour implementation challenge. Within the next 72 hours, identify one area of your life where you've become comfortable and take concrete action to challenge yourself in that area. This doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real growth-oriented action that pushes you beyond your current comfort zone. The 30-day evolution experiment. For the next 30 days, implement the daily recalibration practice and the evolution hour. Document your experience, track your growth, and honestly assess how this approach affects your energy, motivation, and results. The legacy question. Write down your answer to this question. If I truly lived up to my potential for the rest of my life, never settling for comfort when growth was possible, what would I become capable of contributing to the world? The accountability partner challenge. Find someone in your life who you can share your commitment to the never-finished mindset with. This should be someone who will support your growth but also hold you accountable when you're tempted to settle for less than your potential. Conclusion. The beginning of your never-finished journey. If you've stayed with me through this entire 30-minute deep dive into David Goggins' Never Finished, you've already demonstrated something important about yourself. You have the attention span and commitment to engage with challenging ideas. That's more than most people are willing to do. But here's what Goggins would tell you. Understanding these concepts intellectually is just the beginning. The real question is whether you'll have the courage to live them. The never-finished mindset isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming fully human. It's about refusing to waste the gifts, opportunities, and potential that you've been given. It's about recognizing that your achievements aren't your destination. They're your qualifications for the next level of contribution and growth. Every single day you have a choice. You can choose comfort or you can choose growth. You can choose to protect what you've already achieved, or you can use what you've achieved as a foundation for something greater. You can choose to be finished or you can choose to never be finished. The path of continuous growth isn't easy, but it's the only path that honors your potential. It's the only path that allows you to become the person you're capable of becoming. It's the only path that ensures you'll reach the end of your life with no regrets about what you could have become. David Goggins transformed himself from a 300-pound exterminator with a victim mentality into one of the world's most mentally tough individuals. But he'll be the first to tell you that he's not finished. Every day, he's still asking himself, what else am I capable of? How can I grow? What can I contribute? That's the question I want to leave you with today. Not what have you achieved, but What else are you capable of? Your potential is calling. Your best self is waiting. Your legacy is unwritten. The only question is, will you answer the call, or will you choose to stay finished? The choice is yours. The time is now. Your never-finished journey begins today. If this video helped you see your potential in a new way, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what challenge you're going to take on in the next 72 hours. Remember, at Minds Quotes, we don't just share inspiring stories. We challenge you to write your own. Your story isn't finished. It's just beginning.